Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to... content? Otherwise known as a Warframe video. Today's going to be a little different. Today, we're going to be doing another guide, but not just any guide, mind you. This is our first ever expanded guide, where we take a look at a frame we've already done a guide for, and expand off of it, or them, with more intricate and unique ideologies to see how far we can take a frame and push their boundaries to go for playstyles that would otherwise never be thought of before. Starting with... Mirage. Mirage is our first extended guide because, much like getting an injury, when you take that band-aid off, you might as well rip it off rather than waiting slowly to peel it off like a loose lemming. Because really, if I'm going to start making these guides, I'm going to start with what I hate the most and then get them out of the way so I don't have to worry about them dwarfing over me for a long period of time. But with help from Twitch chat and also my friend Natsu, we have worked on fine-tuning a couple of builds that we're going to sort of demonstrate now that will take you beyond your normal playstyle of what Mirage would normally play like. So, sit back, relax, grab a beer or non-alcoholic beverage if you're below that age, and enjoy the show. Also, just before we go any further, if you are watching this video, we're going to assume you already know the base semantics of Mirage. And if you haven't, then please go and watch my previous Mirage guide to get the base fundamentals, at least so you get a base understanding of how she works. And if you haven't gone and seen that video, then go now. Go on. Go watch it. I'll wait. Mirage, Mirage, oh Mirage. So one of the main things we know about Mirage, other than the fact she's a bit dull, is that what she does do, she's very powerful at. Most people will play her in the style of utilizing her insane power strength scaling with her buff and Hall of Mirrors augments to pump out lots of widespread AoE damage with melee weapons and ranged weapons to synergize well with each other. And then also just generally being able to buff yourself to pretty much punt Eidolons in the face in the right situation. But what if I told you, and hold on to your tights here, that Mirage has a build that makes her possibly one of the strongest AoE frames in all of Warframe. Situationally, of course. Well, lo and behold, it's true. How is this possible, you may ask? Well, little Billy, Mirage has an ability called Sleight of Hand, and this ability has an augment called Explosive Legerdemain, which turns item drops into explosive mines. The range of Sleight of Hand is obviously based on range, and oh boy, it scales to a huge degree. In fact, it is actually one of the top 3 highest range-affected abilities in all of Warframe, and with a full build can easily affect almost an entire map, which then ties in nicely for creating map-wide devastation. And due to utilizing so much range, that then affects the range of the explosions you generate from your mines. And the mines then multiplying over each other as well will overlap the damage that they each generate. So you see now how just by building range on its own, you get this overlapping cascade of setting mines and then those mines hitting such a large radius. It's not surprising to see why this kind of build works so well, synergizing well within its own build. Something that we should consider as to how this works so well is understanding where all this damage comes from. And one thing that equates into this is how the mines function. Now, when you set your Explosive Legerdemain down and you activate your Sleight of Hand, different items will turn into different types of mines. Ammo will convert into mines that will deal cold damage. Affinity orbs will be converted into mines that deal toxin damage. Energy orbs will convert into mines that deal electric damage. And health orbs will convert into mines that deal heat damage. Overlapping all these different damage types, you get some rather amazing synergy of damage. Mixing with the small amount of power strength, you can pretty much decimate most enemies. And it also has great damage scaling as well from power strength. Just a small amount of power strength can make most Legerdemain builds kill enemies upwards of level 100, especially when you start overlapping all those damage types. All this coming together makes this build really great for most mission types, but specifically you will see this coming into its own in defensive type missions where the enemies will be condensed into a closer together area, allowing obviously the loot to spawn closer together and allow mines to spawn closer together, etc, etc. But specifically in things like Sanctuary Onslaught or Arbitrations or just general defensive type missions, you will see this coming into its own. But there is an even stranger dynamic to this that's worth keeping in mind as to how you can pump out even more damage by looking into something that no other frame will ever be able to take advantage of. Mirage is one of the only frames in all of Warframe that damage can be affected by loot duplication frames, such as Necros or Korra. That's right, more loot equals more damage. Thinking about this logically, if you bring something like a Necros or a Korra to produce more loot equals more mines equals more death. So not only can you be a greedy loot goblin and encourage farming, but that greed equates to more damage. But wait, that does actually mean having a resource drop chance booster will also increase the spawn of drops, and thus increase the amount of damage you're able to do. It's confirmed, guys. Warframe is officially pay to win. Kappa? Now, the build that I've been running through this entire guide is as such. There are definite improvements that could be made here, such as using the primed mods and Umbral Intensify, for example, but that's sort of subjective down to whether you're willing to put those former in there. But with this build, you are looking for as much range as possible. You could, in theory, put Augur Reach in there as well, but you kind of want a good balance of range and power strength. Ideally, this amount of range right here will absolutely destroy any defensive type map, such as your Sanctuary Onslaughts, your defense missions, where you know enemies are going to be quite close together. However, if you are planning on doing slightly lower level missions and you want to definitely clear the entire map, especially the more linear maps, then putting Augur Reach in there in place of possibly Energy Conversion could definitely help. Energy Conversion is a bit of a weird one. It basically allows you to generate the potential of additional damage whenever you pick up an energy orb. And because you are likely producing a lot of energy orbs with this kind of a build, you know, you're going to have that guaranteed extra bit of power strength to pump out more damage on your mines. However, again, it's definitely not needed unless you're planning on going for much higher level enemies. And honestly, having that extra range to reach out a bit further would probably work better here. Alternatively, you could also swap that out for a bit of duration in the form of continuity to help keep your buffs up and to make the tick damage on your explosions last longer as well. However, in general, with this build, it is more about the power strength to help that the punch of the mines go further, because again, you have an unbelievable amount of range scaling even with only 1 or 2 range mods on there from the word go. But obviously, even from a new player's perspective, these guides are here and can be used by any level of player. When it comes to approaching this from a new player's perspective, you'll basically want to take out the power strength first and eke that in as you start understanding the build better. So obviously with this kind of a build, you are a bit more of a glass cannon. So in theory, you could take out fleeting expertise and replace it with vitality. You could in theory take out your blind rage, put that in there with maybe some more duration to keep your buffs up longer. The great thing about explosive legerdemain builds is it's as powerful as you want it to be. But the more focus you put on it, the more potent it will be. It's kind of a go figure build, and it's kind of why I wanted to start with Mirage, because it's probably one of the more new player friendly augment builds you can get in Warframe. And obviously with these guys, we want to make them as approachable for all players as possible. So change things in and around where you want to. All I would advise is try and keep as much of that power strength as possible. It's entirely down to your own creative process as to how you then take this build with you. 3, 2, 1. So, with Explosive Legerdemain and Mirage becoming Queen of AoE, it's not exactly something you thought of right off the bat when you thought of using Mirage, right? But this is why I want to start with these guides, because we're really going to be taking a deeper look at what frames can achieve when you put a little bit more time into them. So if you're wanting to take this deep dive with us, we do record these videos on Twitch. We'd happily get you guys to come and join us. There'll be a link in the description below if you feel like joining us. And obviously, if you feel like maybe smashing that like button and subscribing, that'll also be pretty cool, you know, satiate the whole YouTube algorithm and all that jazz. But do come and join us. We're all avidly waiting for community and all that jazz. And if you have suggestions for interesting builds or other such stuff you would like to see, then do leave a comment down below. I do try and read them where I can. I might not be able to reply to all of them, but, you know, I do my best. And hopefully, guys, you've enjoyed this video. and I'll hopefully see all of you top hatters in the next one, which I have no idea what will be on. Knowing my luck, they'll try and make me make a Grendel video. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all top hatters next time. Ta-ra!